I'm getting real sick of this whole it gets dark early crap. It's not cute, it's not quirky, it's not fun. I apologize for the glare on my glasses. I'm trying to create some kind of reasonable lighting before it gets dark. It's literally like 2 p.m. Like, why is it so dark out? Hello, my name is Maddie, or Books with Maddie, and today I'm showing you my top 10 books of 2021. Okay, I think I made the glare a little bit better. We're just gonna deal with it. Okay, I'm so excited to share with you guys my top 10 books of 2021. I have spent a long time deliberating, figuring out what my top 10 would be, and I'm really excited with what I've come up with. My reading journey has been up and down this year. I definitely slumped at the beginning of the year. For like the first 6-7 months of the year, I was in a huge slump. I was just reading a lot of books for school, and I just really wasn't reading what I wanted. So I did take into account that like it was kind of hard to find a top 10 honestly, because a lot of books I just read because I needed to, or because I needed to get something read, or I was trying to get back into the swing of things, and a lot of books that I thought I would like I didn't end up liking as much as I thought I would. A whole bunch of stuff, but I have come up with a top 10 of the year. I do have them in order of like 10th, like I'll start with 10th and then go to first place, but honestly all of these I absolutely loved. I gave all of these 5 stars and I highly recommend all of them. So let's just get started. Okay, so in 10th place we have Cersei by Madeline Miller. You've probably heard of this book. This is a retelling of the story of Cersei. It is Greek mythology, it is historical fiction, 2 things that I absolutely love. I can't believe it took me so long to get to this book. It just sounds right up my alley. It was a 5-star prediction. I knew I was gonna love it. The writing style is absolutely beautiful. It chronicles Cersei's journey from living with like other Greek gods and goddesses and then getting her own island and kind of becoming her own person. It is absolutely incredible and I can't recommend it enough. For me, I loved the writing style. The pacing of it was like so great for me. I loved the way that it just like chronicled Cersei's journey and the story that it took you on and how much time it spent on each section of that journey and placed importance on every aspect of Cersei's life, even the struggles. And I just thought it was so powerful and so beautifully written, and I can't wait to read more from Madeline Miller. Okay, coming in at number 9 we have The Love Hypothesis by Ellie Hazelwood. Why do I always drop this book? It's always this book. I have read a lot of romances this year. It was my most read genre of the year. I did the whole Goodreads thing where I read every single nomination, and this is one of the top books, the top romance books that I read this year. It follows 2 scientists. She is a grad student and he is a professor. I don't know how to like describe this, but like basically she's trying to convince her best friend that she's dating somebody else because she wants her best friend to go on a date with somebody that she also like for a short time dated but like never really liked him, but she wants to encourage her best friend to go on a date with him so that she doesn't feel bad. So she tells her friend that she's going on a date, but instead she just goes to work in like her lab. But then her best friend sees her, so she runs up and kisses this guy. Like, so complicated. But basically they then pursue a fake dating arrangement, and it has so many amazing tropes. Fake dating, forced proximity, grumpy sunshine, kind of. He's very grumpy. She's pretty sunshiny. Just like, such good tropes. And these 2 characters, they really do it. It also has an amazing commentary on women in STEM and sexism in STEM, and I think that this is just like a really powerfully written romance novel. I highly recommend that. If you haven't picked this up yet, I feel like everyone has, but if you haven't yet, I really highly recommend that you do. Number 8, I have Laughing All the Way to the Mosque by Zarqa Nawaz. This is a memoir from a Muslim woman, Zarqa Nawaz, as she chronicles her experience of being a practicing Muslim in a Western society. I actually had to read this book for my Women in Global Religions class, and I absolutely loved it. It is so accessible and educational to read, and it is one of my favorite memoirs that I've ever, one of my favorite nonfiction books that I've ever read. Zarqa Nawaz has an extremely just like readable voice, and she's hilarious, and like I just adore this book so much. I feel like it's so underrated. She also wrote a TV show called Little Mosque on the Prairie. It was a successful TV sitcom about her community, and I think she's coming out with a new book in 2022 that I'm very excited for, but I highly recommend you pick up Laughing All the Way to the Mosque. Okay, number 7, we have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is one of the first books I read this year, and it's still held up as one of my favorites throughout the year. This is Leigh Bardugo's first adult fantasy book. It follows a girl named, what's her name? Galaxy? Alex. She attends Yale and is part of this like secret society where there is ghosts and the paranormal, and it's kind of like a cult. There's different societies that have different powers, and she basically joins these societies and she can see ghosts, and it's basically just her like trying to find meaning in all of that and doing kind of tasks for the people in the secret society. It's super cool. It is one of the coolest books, like one of the most unique concepts for a book that I've ever read. It is so well written, and Leigh Bardugo, I'm obsessed with her writing style, the way that she describes things, and I think her moving into adult was such a powerful move, and her being able to write something like this was so powerful. It's so different from everything that she's written before. I super admire the way that she like just did that, and I really can't wait for her to write the second book. Please write the second book soon. Thank you, Leigh Bardugo. But I really can't wait to see what else she does in the adult sphere of literature. Coming in at number 6, we have The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. This is another adult romance that I highly recommend. One of the best that I read this year, obviously. This one follows a man named River, who is a doctor at, not like I don't know what kind of doctor he is, honestly. I don't know, it doesn't matter, but he founded a company called Genetical Ally, I don't know how to say it, I think it's supposed to be a pun, and it's basically a company that believes that they can find people's soulmates based on their DNA. Then the main character and her best friend run into him one day and end up sending in their DNA samples, and basically when they send in their DNA samples they get access to this dating app which basically matches them with people that they would be compatible with, but there are different levels of compatibility, so there's like silver, gold, platinum, diamond, like things like that, and as like thousands and thousands of more people are adding their DNA to this database, more and more matches are becoming accessible. So the main character Jess sends in her DNA sample, and she ends up getting a 98% match of compatibility with the founder, Dr. River, and they basically are both so confused. They're like, how could this happen, because they don't really like each other, and he's really grumpy. She's a daughter, so she's not really like open to dating. They just don't really seem compatible, but then they end up, for like publicity for the company, they end up like hanging out more to like see what happens, and like, it's so freaking good. It is so freaking good. Like, literally one of my favorite Christina Lauren novels ever. One thing that I praise this book so highly for doing, the act 3 of this book is one of the most unique things that I've ever seen done. Really, I don't want to say a lot about it because I don't want to spoil it, but like very well and uniquely done, and I admire this book for doing that. And yeah, that's it. Okay, number 5, I actually don't have a copy of this book, so I will put the picture here, but it is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. Very surprising and shocking, mostly because I done goofed, and I have this vlog series that I started in like April or May or something, where I read Sarah J. Maas for the first time. I posted the first vlog for that series a couple days ago, last week at some point, but I was supposed to have 3 parts of that vlog out by now, but it just got really behind. So I do have a whole vlog of me reading this book and telling you all of my reasoning and thoughts behind having this in my top 10 of the year. And if you saw the first part of that vlog, you would find it ever so shocking that I could ever put Sarah J. Maas in my top 10 of the year, but I have like very solid reasoning for it, and I don't want to explain it here because I really am proud of the videos that I'm making in that series, so I want to make sure that I hype up that series and tell you to go watch it, and the part 2 and part 3 will be out as soon as I can possibly get them done, which should be very soon. And yeah, I really hope that you check out this series because it's one of my favorite series that I do. And if you're unaware, A Court of Silver Flames is the fifth book? Yeah, fourth? Wait. 1, 2, 3. Fourth. Sorry, the fourth book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas. It is the spin-off series where it begins with Nesta's perspective. I loved it. And I don't want to talk about why, but I loved it. But stay tuned for that series so you can find out more about why I loved it, because I have very solid reasoning. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Okay, coming at, wait, what are we at, number 4? Coming in at number 4, we have, unsurprisingly, Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. Another romance. When I tell you I read a lot of romance, it means I had a slim selection of other books that I liked that were not romance. Act Your Age, Eve Brown is the final book in the Brown Sisters trilogy by Talia Hibbert. This is the book series that I will go down with. I will carry this book series until the day that I die. Everyone needs to read this series. It is so good. It is a romance trilogy. Each book follows a different sister. So the first one follows Chloe Brown, the second one follows Dani Brown, and the third one follows Eve Brown. Each book fully utilizes the spectrum of diversity that we have available to us in beautiful ways that create extremely dimensional and dynamic characters that are realistic. Because, you know, like, oh my gosh, I could go on and rant forever, but like most books don't utilize the full spectrum of diversity that we have access to, and that just bothers me so much because it doesn't create dimensional or realistic characters. It creates like the ideal according to like the Euro-patriarchal society, and I'm just done with that. And Talia Hibbert has just really grasped the concept of how broad the term diversity is and how deep and dimensional each human being is and how important that is to include that in books. So, highly recommend this series. It is beautiful, it is funny, it is romantic, it is cute, it is swoon-worthy, it is amazing, and I could never talk enough about this series. Okay, top 3 books of 2021. Here we go. First, we have Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. No, I said first we have, this is actually third. I just meant like, here we have Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. This is a adult contemporary novel about a group of people who get held up by a bank robber inside of a real estate, what is it called? They're just looking at real estate. They're in an apartment showing, and they get held up by a failed bank robber, so it's like a hostage situation, and they kind of all start to bond and learn about each other while they're in this situation. It is one of the most beautiful books that I've ever read, and I'm so grateful that the book club that I'm in picked this book because it's not something that I would have picked up by myself. It is phenomenal. The writing style, phenomenal. The stories and the characters are moving and funny and dimensional, and I am in love with this book. This book is one of the books that like fundamentally I feel like changed me as a person this year. Even though I only read it like a couple weeks ago, I feel so differently about the way that I look at life because of this book, and so I highly recommend that you read it. It is so powerful and has such important commentary about like the idea of like growing up in adulthood and like knowing what you're doing with your life and things like that, and I just can't recommend it enough. Okay, book number 2, drum roll. Second best book of the year was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I feel so similarly about this one that I feel to Anxious People, except I like the pacing of this one better. This is a story about a woman named Nora who is really going through it. She's very depressive and suicidal, and one day she decides to commit suicide. In the places between life and death, she discovers there's a place called the Midnight Library where she is able to live out different versions of her life based on her regrets. So she identifies something that she regrets doing or not doing, and then she can live a version of her life where she either did what she regretted not doing or didn't do what she regretted doing. And she basically has the ability to live out all of these versions of her life and see how her life would have turned out had she done things differently. Beautiful, beautiful book. And I do want to give a slight warning because when I started reading this book, I felt uncomfortable with the concept that they might have been suggesting that there is possibly a version of your life that isn't worth living. Not at all what they're suggesting in this book. Matt Haig does a really good job handling the concept of suicide and regrets, which can be a really triggering topic for some people. And so I highly recommend you read this book, especially if you're like in a dark place in your life. I think this really outlines the beauty of life and decisions and the ability to craft your own life and things like that, because the place that you are in life now has been specifically crafted based on the decisions that you thought were best in the moment, and I think there's something really beautiful about that. And Matt Haig really does a great job highlighting that idea in this book, and so I highly, highly recommend that you pick it up. We are at the last book, the top book that I read in 2021, my favorite book of the year. Totally unexpected. I'm so excited. We're gonna do another drum roll. And The Wicked King! I was so shook to realize that this is my favorite book of the year without a doubt. I feel like I've never been so sure. Lovely War was definitely my favorite book of 2019, but I feel so sure about this. This is the second book in the Folk of the Air trilogy, so The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and then The Queen of Nothing. This book is incredible. It changed my perception of YA fantasy, because I was kind of done with YA fantasy. I was like, this isn't for me, and then I read The Folk of the Year and my life changed. Okay, if you don't know what the series is, it follows two characters, Jude and Cardan. Cardan is the prince of the Fae realm. See, okay, the problem with fantasy is I never remember like terms, like what the places are called or what like anything is, you know, I don't remember. But like, so just bear with me. He's like the prince of like the Fae land area, parts of it, not all of it, like a certain part of it he's the prince of. And then that part is where Jude lives. Jude is a human. She was brought to the fairy world when she was a child, and so she was raised in the fairy world and kind of has a grasp of the politics and movements of the fairy world, but she's like heavily bullied and like discriminated against because she is human, and one of those bullies is Prince Cardan. So it's about her aspiring to be a knight in the fairy world and all of the drama of the kingdom and what happens, and it's so good. And I wish that I could like do it justice, because I feel like that doesn't sound in itself like particularly compelling, but it is very compelling and one of the most politically intriguing books that I've ever read in my entire life. It is amazing. So good. And the end of this book blew my mind. I've never been the same. So that is my pitch for you to read the Folk of the Air series. That is the end of this video. Those are my top 10 books of 2021. Let me know what your top 10 were, or just your top book of 2021, because I'm so curious, and maybe I'll get some recommendations from the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Happy New Year. To plug what's happening this week, again, just to let you know in case you missed it, every day for the first week in January, I always upload one video a day, just for the first week, just kind of wrapping up my 2021 reading, getting you guys in the loop for what I will be doing in 2022. So if you'd like to be updated with what's going on, make sure to like, subscribe, maybe even turn on that notification bell so that you know what's happening over here, because there's some pretty exciting stuff happening, and I'm so grateful that you all have decided to join me on this journey. Anyway, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great day, hope you have a great week, and I hope you have a great life, and I'll see you very, very soon. Bye-bye!